Do good, Maverico here. Welcome to podcast episode number 71. Will you ever be able to retire? That's the title of today's episode. Will you ever be able to retire? When it comes to the retirement system, it has changed a lot since its infancy. Let me just read some statistics and some facts that I found online. The United States adopted an initial retirement age of 65 under the bill of the Social Security Act of 1935. By the mid-20th century, almost all countries had adopted a retirement age. Let me find other website. And here on an article on Peter G. Peterson Foundation on pgpf.org, the ratio of workers to Social Security beneficiaries is at a low and projected to decline further. Last updated August 4th, 2022. Social Security has been a cornerstone of economic security for almost 90 years, but the program is on unsound footing. Social Security's combined trust funds are projected to be depleted by 2035, just 13 years from now. This article was from 2022, so yeah, about 10 years from now. A major contributor to the unsustainability of the current Social Security program is that the number of workers contributing to the program is growing more slowly than the number of beneficiaries receiving monthly payments. So yeah, basically, the amount of people that are receiving payments are growing faster than the amount of people working and contributing to the system. So yeah, let me just find, there was another statistic. Let me see. Ratio of Social Security covered workers to beneficiaries. Yeah, here's basically the ratio. Let me see. Yeah, here it is. This is on Social Security, ssa.gov. So I think it's legit. In 1940, the ratio was 159.4. So about 159.4 people were contributing to the system for each one person receiving benefits from Social Security. But the thing is, by 1940, I think the program had not matured. I think it was so early on that the numbers were really skewed early on. 1945, it was 41.9 people receiving benefits for each one. 41.9 people contributing for each one person receiving benefits. 1950, 16.5 to 1. 1955, 8.6 to 1. 1965, 4.0. 1970, 3.7. And then it gradually decreases. It goes up a little bit up again. But by 2013, it's at 2.8. The last number they have listed is 2.8 in 2013. So yeah, 2.8 people contributing money into Social Security for each one person receiving benefits. And the numbers keeps getting more and more skewed. And like they said, the Social Security's combined trust funds are projected to be depleted by 2035. That's on pgpf.org. So yeah, it's unstable. So will you ever be able to retire? Well, when it comes to following the old financial advice from the 1960s and the 1950s, which basically said go to school, study hard, get a good education so that you can get a safe and secure job with good benefits, work for some decades, retire, and receive a good pension. That was kind of the old advice. And you were working as an employee for a company as your one and only source of income. That was kind of the mainstream money plan. And when it comes to what is being promoted these days for most people and students, young people as well, is very much the same thing. Now you have some kind of extra where people can do some retirement savings, and it is it is a kind of investment in mutual funds, something like that, where they get something like 5 to 10, 15% return on investment per year. So it's at least it's supposed to be compound interest, where you have interest, so it's supposed to be growing as well. But many of those numbers are just too low. But here in Norway, I saw a commercial a few years ago. It was crazy. It was basically talking about saving for retirement, and the whole concept was save. It wasn't even investing. It was save money for retirement, and you had this kind of video clip of a guy a man in his 40s riding a bicycle, and oh yeah, save for retirement. And he was showing some numbers. If he just put aside that many dollars, or Norwegian kroner per month, when he was like 70 years old, he would have this amount in his bank account. And it was something like $70,000 in his bank account. And the whole thing was like, wow, look at that retirement you can have with $70,000 in your bank account. Wow. What a shit show. $70,000. It's a joke. Who knows? The thing is, who knows how much $70,000 is going to be worth 3-4 decades from now? There's inflation and cost of living increases. So just putting money aside for 3 decades and then start using them, the purchasing power of that money will be who knows how many 100% or thousands of percent lower it will be. Crazy. So there are even retirement saving plans out there without interest. It's crazy. And you have those other retirement saving plans where there are, like I said, some interest, but really the interest rates are very low. So the amount of money that most people will be able to save might still be too low. And the thing is, the way I look at it, it's about income. It's not just about having an amount in the bank, but an income. So preferably several sources of income, several streams of income. Maybe you have rental real estate that you're renting out. Maybe you have some royalties on books you have written, different kind of assets. Maybe you have an online business. Maybe you have automated businesses. Maybe you have investments in index funds where the amount is so high that just the 5%, 5-10% per year in ROI is more than enough to live off of. Stuff like that. So yeah, will you ever be able to retire? The way I look at it, it seems more and more like the government retirement plan from Social Security and stuff like that should be seen as the worst case scenario. where if all your other plans and investments fails, then that's the backup. I don't think it should be the one big only plan for an income when you retire, because it might be way too low. In Norway, I've been talking about this with friends and family for years, that the numbers are not adding up. There are so few people contributing compared to people receiving benefits, and the numbers are becoming more and more skewed. So I've been saying it for years that it's probably going to end up with the retirement age, the standard retirement age, increasing. So people have to be older and older in order to retire. And a few weeks ago, I heard they were talking about here in Norway that maybe the new retirement age was going to be, was it 71 or 72 years old? So they're already talking about it. And if they're talking about 71 or 72 years now, who knows what they're going to talk about in 2 decades from now. So yeah, build your own income streams, multiple streams of income. I'm not an expert at all, but just look at it purely practical. It's about income, because just saving money, the problem with saving is that inflation rates are so high. Inflation and cost of living is increasing. So even if you're putting a lot of money aside, let's say you're saving like crazy, you're putting aside like 65% of your paychecks or your income, you're putting aside 65% of your income in a bank account. Let's say you do that. Very unrealistic, but let's say you did. Even if you did that for several decades and you had a big lump sum of money in the bank and you retired at 65, how long could you live on that money? Because maybe the purchasing power of that money would have been hundreds of percent lower than it was, but what it was when you put it in. It's not just about the amount or the number, it's about the purchasing power. So yeah, inflation is the problem, and cost of living is also a problem. So it should be about income, like Robert Kiyosaki talks about in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's about getting assets, things that are generating positive cash flow, generating an income each month. Something that's putting money in your pocket every month, pretty much on autopilot. That's an asset. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. So if you get enough assets, and like Robert Kiyosaki says, an asset can be anything. So there's a lot of different types of assets. So I think that should be part of their retirement plan for most people, because you might be in for a rude awakening if you're just following the mainstream advice. But will you ever be able to retire? Well, if you have an income for it, maybe the system will change. But yeah, I think we should focus on having multiple streams of income. Anyway, that's a lot of talk about the mainstream stuff. But other than that, there's a lot of negative things going on these days, but there's also a lot of exciting things going on. The last few weeks, I've interviewed people that they did not have passive income, but they had what I call semi-passive income. They were working like 2 to 15 hours per week and generating at least 5 figures in profit, at least $10,000 in profit per month. And it's about paid community success stories. People are running paid communities. It's for a book and course and community that I'm building for Terrific 30. where I'm interviewing 30 of these real life success stories. If you want to find out about these, you can check out communitycashcows.com. And you know, when people talk about retire, I'm not really, myself personally, if I'm blessed enough to have good health until I'm very old, I don't want to retire early because I'm so excited about things that I want to be doing. But if you think about it differently, what if you had passive or semi-passive income so that you could choose what you were doing? And if you had just semi-passive income where you had to work like 15 hours per week, just imagine the kind of lifestyle that you could have with something like that. And with paid communities, there are people doing it after just a few months of from their starting. They started a paid community, and in like 2 to 4, 5, 6 months, several of the people that I interviewed, in that short period of time, they were already making over $10,000 in profit per month. Now, I'm not saying that is just as stable as an income from the index fund investment that is almost completely passive. But at the same time, if you compare it, how long would it take someone working as an employee and investing 10 to 30% of their income into an index fund that had like 5 to 12% ROI per year? How many years would they have to invest, work as an employee full time, and invest like that before they got to the point where they were making $10,000 in profit per month? How many years would that take? Do I have a calculator here? Well, that becomes kind of complicated because it's kind of like compound interest, but it would take a long time, unless you had a super high income. But there are people doing it in a few months. I'm not an expert, but I have interviewed several success stories that have done it. So, what what one man can do, another man can do. Success leaves clues. So why not do it yourself? A lot of people are working for 4 decades to retire and earn less, a lot less than $10,000 in profit per month. What if you could do it in a few months? And of course, if you have to work like 15 hours per week, for example, then it's only semi-passive income. It's not completely passive like a retired person, but still 15 hours per week, that's not really that much. Imagine the kind of lifestyle that could be possible. No, I'm not pretending to be an expert. I'm daydreaming about the same thing myself, but I'm more daydreaming of all the things I want to do. I'm not really into the semi-passive stuff that much yet, but it's still fascinating. And imagine if you were able to make $10,000 in profit per month semi-passively with a paid community. If you were able to do that, like a lot of other people have done, could you grow it? Could you increase it to $20,000 in profit per month? 30. The old lady that I interviewed a few weeks ago, she started her paid community about 2 years ago. Now she was talking about around $200,000 in profit per month, but I think that's wrong. I think it's more like $1 to $2 million in profit. But let's say it was as low as she told me, around $200,000 to $300,000 in profit per month. And she had a concept that she called her 2 hours of money-making activities. Almost every morning before noon, she spends like 2 hours, mainly on content creation and going live on TikTok and YouTube. And that's all she has to do. She usually works more than that, engaging in the community, talking to some of her team members, stuff like that. But those 2 hours in the morning, that was the required part. And my point is, it's possible to, in many cases, it's possible to scale. So it's not like 10,000, that's the maximum. In many cases, you can scale it. And imagine the opportunities, possibilities it opens up for. What if you work for 4 decades and retire? Oh snap! I'm only making like $60,000. I mean, like $6,000 in profit per month. And the problem is, some people might find themselves in a scenario like this. They're making like $6,000 in profit per month, but the problem is things are about 3 times as expensive as they used to be. What then? Or yeah, you can just go back to work and just hustle for a few decades. I know you're like 75 years old, but just go back and just work for like 40 years more, save up some money, invest some money in an index fund, and then you can come back into retirement again at age 85, 95, 115 years old. You can come back and retire again with a much higher income, because then you have spent 4 decades extra investing into an index fund so that you can increase your monthly payments, your monthly income. What a joke, of course. What kind of plan is that? Like a silly joke, the whole thing. But yeah, my point is, it's hard to suddenly increase the payments if all you have is the social security system or an index fund. And although a paid community is maybe not as stable as that, the cool thing is you can test it out in a few months, and when you get it to work, you can grow it as well. Exciting stuff. Who knows? Maybe a few months from now, maybe you'll have your own community cash cow. You should check it out. Go to communitycashcows.com and just check it out. There's at least at the time of this recording, there's a free trial, so you can just go for a free trial, go through a bunch of the interviews, connect with a bunch of the people in the community that are also building their own paid community, and see if you like it. communitycashcows.com. All right. Take care, and God bless.